So we got some new polling in some key Senate races with some pretty interesting results. All right, let's go ahead and throw G1B up there, the poll results. The one that caught everyone's eye is South Carolina. That's the one in the middle there, where Jamie Harrison, the Democratic challenger, is tied, according to this poll, with Lindsey Graham. In Maine, a very bad result for Susan Collins. I think that's a bit of an outlier, but I think she has been somewhat consistently down. And in Kentucky, Chuck Schumer's pick of Amy McGrath, the self-described Trump Democrat, not working out so well. Although, you may be tempted, Saagar, to point out that she was a very strong candidate last time around, and she doesn't really seem to know where she stands, and almost was beaten by someone who she outspent like 20-1 or something like that, and maybe wasn't a great pick by Schumer. But on the other hand, I think what he really picked her for was because of her ability to separate resistance, like liberals across on the coast, from their money, and in that respect, I think she's been very successful.
Oh, she's been incredibly successful. She's got millions and millions of dollars in the bank. You were just telling me Jamie Harrison apparently raised $1 million yesterday as a result of that poll. Largely,
that's a really interesting one.
I assume because of resistance libs on Twitter be like, we're going to get Lindsey Graham. Do I actually think it's a tied race? No, I actually don't. Graham and them came out and said, look, the methodology and all that, they're playing their games. It's probably a little bit tight. Couple of points. He's definitely running closer than most people have whenever it comes to a Democrat in the state of South Carolina, but it's dramatically, it's very likely not going to happen for Jamie Harrison. That being said, it does goes to show you that these Republicans are still paying big political costs. Susan Collins is down. Now, the resistance liberals, I think, would have you think it's because of the Brett Kavanaugh vote and all that. But if you go and you look at the survey of Maine voters, their top issues are the economy. It's the same thing all across the country. It's about economic recovery. And in many cases, I think Susan Collins took a hit on repeal and replace Obamacare from earlier, a couple of years ago, but still very much in the minds of a lot of Maine voters. So that's where I think you can see that the margin for Republicans is just shrinking. Yes, Mitch McConnell is up in the state of Kentucky, but Trump is actually overperforming McConnell by 11 points in popularity in that state. So let that digest.
Mitch McConnell is very unpopular in the state of Kentucky, which is why Democrats always think maybe they've got a shot at taking him out, because he consistently rates as one of the least popular senators among his own constituents in the entire country. He's either at the bottom of the list or like at least in the bottom 5 of that list. So that's why Democrats always think they have a chance. But look, a lot of this comes down to partisanship.
Yes.
And so going back to Maine has, if not the oldest population in the country, one of the oldest populations in the country. And where have we seen the biggest shift away from Donald Trump? It is among senior voters who backed him last time around and this time appear to be swinging towards Biden and likely to hand, if trends continue, they would be the ones really who end up handing Biden a victory this time around if he does prevail. You also have, just a partisanship dynamic, where it used to be you could be a moderate Democrat, quote unquote, or a moderate Republican, quote unquote, and win in a state, when sort of separate yourself from the national party in a state like Maine. Not really possible anymore. So it's partly just those hardening partisan divides as well. In South Carolina, look, I really want to hand it to Jamie Harrison. I think he's running a very good campaign there. And Lindsey Graham, I'm curious what your view of how Republicans view Lindsey Graham, because on the one hand, he's very adamant against Trump in the beginning before Trump becomes the nominee. Now he's become like his super friend, super buddy, but in a lot of ways still represents like the polar opposite of what Donald Trump ran on in 2016. So how do you think he's viewed by and large?
Well, look, Lindsey Graham, the Republican base has hated Lindsey Graham for a long time. The Tea Party hated Lindsey Graham, and they went after him. They almost got him back. I think it was 2014. And then whenever he was running the last time around, and the time before that, they really tried to make sure that he didn't win. This time around, he shored himself up. That's what I talked about on my radar, which is he has sucked up to Trump by talking about, Russiagate and Mueller and all this other stuff. And Trump will let him off the hook when Lindsey wants to invade like 5 different countries, right? Like, Lindsey is still a neocon. Right. He's still your very standard issue, tax cut, Reagan type Republican. But Trump and the National Party lets him get away with it because he comes up on the, the Russiagate issues, or sometimes on the more cultural issues. He had a great moment during the Kavanaugh hearings. But shouldn't obfuscate what he actually stands for. He didn't face a real primary challenge on these grounds. And South Carolina is a complicated state and all of that whenever it comes to Republicans in general. So by and large, I think he's probably going to skate by just because he's tied himself so closely to Trump. He goes golfing with him all the time. He talks to him on the phone. That plays dividends.
Yeah, I will say some of the messaging, we've covered this before, some of the messaging coming out of the Jamie Harrison campaign, I think is really quite interesting and quite effective. This is one of my favorite campaigns from the cycle so far. Let's take a look at that.
I went to a rural county in South Carolina, but I went down an old dirt road, shotgun house, and I went knocking on doors. Old African-American man came to the door, and he said, "Son, who are you and what you want?" I said, "Sir, I'm Jamie Harrison." He looked at me and he said, okay. What do you want? I said, "Sir, this is the most consequential election." And he said, "Son, let me tell you something." He said, "You see that road that you drove up on?" I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "What kind of road is that?" He said, "It's a dirt road." He said, "Son, that was a dirt road when Ronald Reagan was president, when both of the Bushes were president. It was a dirt road when Bill Clinton and Barack Obama were president. Son, that's still a goddamn dirt road. And until either a Democrat or a Republican pays my road, I don't want to deal with any of it." He shut his door. Now, a little hurt. But then I started thinking about it. The most important thing to this man was his dirt road. And he'd heard all the political speeches, people talking about it doing this and that, but nobody had still paved his road. That road is symbolic for so many things, for so many of us across the state. It might not be a dirt road for the people in Allendale, but it may be schools. Might not be a dirt road for the people in Bamberg, it could be their hospital. That dirt road is a hardship that so many of us are suffering with across the state.
I remember a time when senators helped the people they represented. I want to bring the spirit of helping back.
We have to rebuild the trust of those people.
And that's why I am running for the United States Senate.
Not a bad ad.
Not a bad ad at all. And so, look, you've got a candidate who's doing an effective job and who just raised a whole bunch of money based on this poll, faulty though it may be. And I looked, by the way, there just hasn't been a lot of recent polling in the race that we've had access to. I'm sure the candidates are doing polling. The last Quinnipiac poll also had it tied. That was back, I think, in July. So we don't have a really clear picture of where the race is. You've got a Republican who's got a few vulnerabilities, and you have a state that is shifting somewhat in Democrats' direction. So, look, do I think it's likely that Jamie Harrison pulls off the upset here? No, but is it totally insane to imagine? I don't think so at this point.
I think that's right. And the better way to look at it, which is that overall, I think things are not great for Republicans overall on the national map. Lindsey Graham definitely has the edge going in. But this just also can go to show you that whenever candidate quality does matter still a little bit. The McGrath thing, I mean, down 12 points in the state of Kentucky whenever McConnell is underwater in terms of national overall approval shows that, look, I'm not saying he's beatable, but you could probably be running closer.
You probably do a little better than that. All right, more Rising for you after this.